What started out as a simple weekend project that was 5 pages has evolved into something so much more.
When the prince of a dying kingdom awakens in an enchanted forest to find himself alone and shocked by tragedy, he must confront his memory, magic, and Mother Nature to lift the curse that plagues the land and find his way home.
As the thing grew, we just sort of gave ourselves the rules of, let's not hold it back.
There's a certain type of fantasy that I've always wanted to see that I've only seen come close in things like Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones. This is my opportunity to do fantasy in a way that proves that you don't need a giant budget to pull it off. Technology has given us the opportunity.
I just want it to be a fantasy movie where we can lose ourselves, because I love that shit, and that is why I loved Lord of the Rings.
Essentially, it should be a fairy tale, but also grounded, real-life fairy tale, something that you can sink your teeth into and you wanted to see as a kid.
The prince battles between the love he knows he needs to have for the people, as well as the inner dark secret deep within himself that he's terrified to confront. His only protection being the medallion.
I have the medallion that we use for the movie, and I like to wear it occasionally, and I find that when those are the times when I wear it are the times when I struggle being vulnerable the most. And it's cool to sort of see that reflect, because it's like, oh, he has to give that up, and Elise is trying to get that from him. She wants him to give her his heart, and she's so much so that she is willing to take it from him. And he's like, I know I can't let it be taken from me, but I want to give up my heart, but I'm scared as shit to fucking give up my heart.
You can't keep betraying your true nature. Eventually, you must take responsibility for what you are.
We're deeply inspired by Jung's work and his focus on being able to embrace the darkness inside of ourselves in order to gain power over it.
What if we don't get back before dark?
He talks about it as like a tree, right? Where the roots are growing hell. The roots are in the foundation of hell, but then it reaches up through, and then the branches and the fruit comes from heaven. And so it's like, well, if we can have our roots in hell and evil and love that side of ourselves without indulging in that side of ourselves, and then manifest that through beautiful fruit that everyone gets to taste and eat and enjoy, then we've done the sacrificial work for them.
We are the noble animal.
That is what I think we are as a human. I think we are part noble, and I think we are part animal. And I think if you mismatch the balance, then you lose sight of what's actually real and honest in front of you, in front of your actual fucking face. Not to mention, there's no way you can take responsibility for a life worth living if you don't accept that side of yourself.
Another thing about this movie that I think is pretty interesting is just the sheer amount of locations and time that it's taken to be able to figure out what every single scene is. I'm essentially able to write and direct simultaneously. Very rarely do people get to do both in tandem with one another. And then this barn behind me over here, I was checking out to see if it'd be a good location. It was way better from the roadside view than it was up in person through a camera lens. So I might end up scrapping it. But that's the nature of these films, is you get an idea and you try it out, and if it works, it's amazing. And if it doesn't, then you go to the next one.
I've made 2 award-winning films before this, and one of the most valuable things I've learned is to do it the way you know will get you the result you want. So many people do it the way that they've been told without actually understanding why. I know where every dollar we raise is going and how it will find its way on screen. I'm a big advocate for learning through doing rather than watching or hearing. I should be able to do every single aspect myself. David Fincher always said it best.
I want to know what every motherfucker in the room does, so that when somebody says to me, we can't do that, it's like, oh yeah, well, Fisher Levin will do that. If the drop-down plate, if you just do, you know, I never want to be the guy who was victimized by other people's laziness.
Someone described it as method directing. Which I kind of like that idea. The experiences in the movie are experiences I, as a person, want to be able to have had. I don't want to be talking out of my ass. I want to be able to speak with authority on the things that I know and have the humility to know the things I don't.
One of the things that I know is that a man is only as good as the people he surrounds himself with.
Hi, my name is Jeff Carabellis, and I am the composer for The Noble Animal. Well, if I was in heaven and God knew me thoroughly, and the greatest gift he could possibly give me was the ability to compose and write music and play music with a heavenly choir, as silly as that may sound. And I realized, what the hell is stopping me here? And then when I sent that track to you and you responded so positively, I realized I'm really missing out on what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what I'm here for. To this day, nothing compares to turning everything else off and listening to a beautifully composed piece and just closing your eyes and being lost in that. Nothing compares. The greatest story ever written doesn't compare to that for me.
My name's Alex Schofield, and I'm the producer of Noble Animal. I think what I admire so much is that you will, maybe out of sheer ignorance, but you will ask the dumb question. You don't worry about things, and you kind of let stuff roll off your shoulder. I feel like why we complement each other is because I am more the opposite of that, of like being a little bit more structured because I am a warrior. The fact that you could recognize what wasn't working and that you were dedicated to making a thing that actually worked and not just something that you could scrape together, which I think is what a lot of people do. And then the dedication back to making everything just interlock a lot more on that script level was where it was just like, yeah, that I want to kind of get behind.
I'm in the midst of the pandemic right now, and there's only one thing that really feels important for me to do, and it's this movie. And that seems kind of insane because it's really not a necessary job by any means. But at the same time, I think there's something to be said for maybe it is necessary. Like, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that looks like yet. But I do think that there's something to be said of, I think authentic creation is being hungered for in a way that hasn't been satisfied. And I would love to help be one of the people that can satisfy that.
And I realized the things of which I have strengths, and I realized the things that in which I needed to sort of show more vulnerabilities to, because what's the point of making art if we're not really being vulnerable with that art? We all fucking have evil inside of us, and we all just sort of like, no, it's fine, I'm just sort of gonna put on a face and I'm gonna be around people, and we're gonna sort of pretend that doesn't exist for any of us, and it fucking does, and no one fucking addresses it.
People should be taking responsibility for their lives, and that you are willing to risk going all in on a project with your heart and your soul, knowing that it might not be anything, that it might turn into a shit movie, like so many do, right? But ultimately, if we're not creating to the best of our ability, then why are we creating at all?
I would really love for you to want to be a part of that. That would be exciting for me. I don't want to have to convince you. I just want to tell you what I'm doing, why it's exciting to me, no matter how crazy it sounds, and that you're like, yeah, that's the thing I want to do too.
And then one last note here I've added just for myself is, Micah, you need their help.